In 1863, the United States was on the brink of civil war. The conflict between the North and South was rooted in the struggle over slavery and the principles of freedom. The battlefield at Gettysburg was about to be stained with blood, where thousands of lives would be sacrificed. The outcome of this battle would determine not just the future of America, but the very essence of liberty itself. It was a moment when history would turn and democracy would be put to the test. In 1863, the United States was in the midst of its most devastating conflict, the Civil War. The war had begun in 1861, fueled by deep divisions over slavery, economic policies, and the question of states' rights. The Union, representing the northern states, was determined to preserve the nation as a single entity and end the institution of slavery. The Confederacy, representing the southern states, sought independence to protect their way of life, which heavily depended on enslaved labor. By mid-1863, the war was at a stalemate. The Confederacy, led by General Robert E. Lee, had achieved several victories and sought to carry the fight into northern territory to break the Union's will to continue the war. Lee believed that a decisive victory on Union soil would weaken the northern morale and possibly lead to foreign intervention or peace negotiations. This strategy culminated in the Battle of Gettysburg, fought from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863, in the small town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It began almost by chance when Confederate forces encountered Union troops while searching for supplies. What followed was 3 days of intense and bloody combat involving nearly 165,000 soldiers. On the first day, the Confederates pushed Union forces through the town of Gettysburg, forcing them to retreat to the high ground south of the town. On the second day, the Confederates launched a series of fierce attacks on Union positions at key locations like Little Round Top, the Wheat Field, and Cemetery Hill. Despite heavy losses, the Union troops held their ground. The third day saw General Lee make a bold but catastrophic decision. He ordered the direct assault on the center of the Union line at Cemetery Ridge, an attack later known as Pickett's Charge. About 12,500 Confederate soldiers marched across open fields under heavy Union artillery and rifle fire. The assault was a devastating failure, with massive casualties on the Confederate side. The Union victory at Gettysburg marked a significant turning point in the war. It ended Lee's invasion of the North and shattered the Confederate Army's ability to take the offensive. However, the cost was immense. Combined casualties from both sides exceeded 50,000, making it one of the bloodiest battles in American history. The town of Gettysburg was left with the grim task of burying the dead and caring for thousands of wounded soldiers. 4 months after the battle, on November 19, 1863, a ceremony was held to dedicate the Soldiers' National Cemetery at Gettysburg. President Abraham Lincoln was invited to speak, not as the main speaker, but to offer a few brief remarks. The main address was delivered by Edward Everett, a prominent orator who spoke for over 2 hours. When Lincoln rose to speak, his words were concise but deeply impactful. In just 272 words, he delivered what would become one of the most famous speeches in American history, the Gettysburg Address. Lincoln began by referencing the founding of the United States and its principles of liberty and equality. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. He honored the soldiers who had fought and died at Gettysburg, stating that their sacrifice was for a cause much greater than themselves. Lincoln used the moment to redefine the purpose of the war, framing it not just as a struggle to preserve the Union, but as a fight to ensure that democracy itself would endure, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Though his speech lasted only about 2 minutes, it resonated deeply and came to symbolize the ideals of the American experiment. It reminded the nation of its founding principles and the sacrifices required to uphold them. Today, the Battle of Gettysburg and Lincoln's address are remembered as pivotal moments in American history. Gettysburg is preserved as a national park, a place where millions visit to reflect on the cost of war and the enduring fight for freedom and equality. The Gettysburg Address continues to inspire, reminding people of the power of democracy and the importance of unity in the face of adversity.